This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
Well, this is an unprecedented Sports 225. In the history of Sports Monday of 16 years and Sports 225, 6, getting to what is now our 200th show. For show 199, my guest was Matt Moscona, he of radio show fame. My guest for show number 200, Matt Moscona, he of radio show fame.
Yeah! Hold on.
Wait.
Look, last week when I was here, I said, why wouldn't you invite me for show 200, right? What a wonderful occasion. So
He went shopping.
We are making television history today, right? Aren't we?
With no doubt.
Show 200.
Show
So I figured
200.
let's celebrate. Here you go. You get to be 60. The party store didn't have.
Nice.
Party store didn't have 200
Nice.
hats, by the way.
Nice.
So you get to be 60. I'll be
All right,
30.
good,
Hold
good.
on. I'm not done. Hold on. Here, look. Let's party. Can we get a look there? Let's party. Can we get a look right there? Look, let's party. There's yours.
Thank you.
Here's
Thank
mine.
You. Thank
Hold
you.
on. Here are glasses.
Oh,
Let's party.
God. Oh, we got to take off the other glasses.
We're not done yet, though. We're still not done.
I can't see anything. Oh, wait, but
We're still
wait,
not
there's
done.
more.
Here.
Oh, these are shades.
Look. Oh, yeah, they are.
Oh, geez.
There you go. Look. Oh, they don't make noise. We're a rip-off.
Rip-off.
Oh. Well, look. Look, these are the... Hey!
Can you save one of those for the last, for when we go off the air?
Congratulations. Yeah, that's yours.
Kid.
That's yours for when we go off the air. Happy 200th show. It's so good to be here for Sports Monday. I
Thank
grew
you.
up watching Sports Monday,
It's
and
sports,
to be here
it's
on
Sports
Sports...
225.
This isn't Sports Monday?
Not anymore.
Oh, it says it right there. It's Sports 225. I thought I was here for Sports Monday.
How old were you when Sports Monday started?
Who cares? What
Were
year
you
did Sports Monday start?
1995. You were
I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
I was just a pup in Baton Rouge. 34 now, and the first ever back-to-back. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? The people that have been on this set, on this show, that have come and indulged you all these years.
It's amazing.
And I'm the guy. I'm the lucky schmo who gets to come for back-to-back episodes and celebrate with
It's
you.
never happened before.
Never
Never.
in my life.
In the old days, this week we'd have what we called Selection Monday, a round table. Neither one of us have even looked at our brackets yet.
You know, here's the odd thing. You told me before I came, you're like, hey, we'll look at your bracket and all. So Sunday, I know, I look ridiculous, but I don't care. So Sunday, we had to drive to Houston for a checkup with my son's doctor at Texas Children's. We're driving, traveling, meeting nurses and things like that. So
Yeah.
I totally missed the bracket
You didn't listen
show.
to the selection show on the
I
air.
totally missed the bracket show. And then Monday, we were at the doctor and then driving home. You get home late, you crash out, you repack. Then we're filming Tuesday morning, so I have not filled my bracket out yet. Duke, I'm picking Duke. Give me Duke.
You're not picking Duke.
I'm picking Duke.
All right, you pick Duke.
I know Duke beat North Carolina twice this year, including in the ACC tournament. I love Wichita State, and I'm not big on the ACC other than Duke. I like Duke, but I think the ACC got too many teams in. Watered down league.
The one thing that I get the biggest kick out of every year is every year there's the selection show, and then the ESPN comes in and they analyze and overanalyze.
Yeah.
And then they go down to Sarasota, Florida, to Dick Vitale's house.
How in the world?
He always complains about somebody not getting
The
in.
fact that Illinois State did not get in is
Oh.
one of the greatest tragedies in the history of the tournament. How do you keep Iowa State out? Illinois
Syracuse,
State.
it's an injustice against the Orange. And the truth of it is, the teams that don't get in were borderline, obviously, and weren't going to win. And then they go to the NIT and do great, and everybody goes, see. But it sets them up for next year.
So the champion over the last 30 years, only one time has it been someone seated not in the top 4. So there's like literally 16 teams that have a shot at this.
As
of winning
a
the whole
rule.
thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
about
yeah,
it. It's great theater.
Now, we were.
It's a terrible way to crown
We
a
were
champion.
a half-court shot off the rim at the buzzer by
Yeah.
Butler.
Yeah.
That was, that
Against Duke.
close. Yeah. All right, so obviously it's a 200 show. Matt brought stuff. We look like this. there were some significant events in sports the last week that we're going to talk about. On a much more serious note, a good friend, R.L. Stockard, who was 92, and his importance to historically black colleges and athletics can't be diminished, and the former Southern University coach, Ben Jobe, both of them died this past week, and we'll talk about that when we get back. I've got a segment from when R.L. Stockard was on the show right after Katrina. His story's amazing. Few people are more amazing than Matt Moscona. You can listen to him every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 on 104.5 ESPN and 100.3 in New Orleans. Read his stuff at Gridiron Now. Follow him at Twitter at Matt Moscona. And there you go. Thank you for the awesome presence.
You got it, dude.
All right,
Fired
good.
up.
I'm Lee Feinswag. It's Sports 225, not Sports Monday.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College. You know, you're not a number here at ITI. You're known by name. The staff and the instructors work diligently for your success because your success is our success. ITI is family owned and part of this community. Our 10-acre campus has been here for over 40 years. Let us evaluate your credits to determine if they'll transfer here. ITI is accredited by the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. ITI Technical College. Begin your journey for a better life.
All right, we're back on Sports 225. Our goodies are still here. Matt Moscona is with me. But as I mentioned going into the break, historically black university athletics took a big hit last week with the death of former Southern University basketball coach Ben Jobe. I was his first beat writer at Southern, and I got stories about that later. But also a man named R.L. Stockard, Russell Stockard, who many of you might not have ever heard of, but he was really important in so many ways. I'm going to let you see a clip from when he was on the show after Hurricane Katrina, and he had moved to Baton Rouge. Now, I got to tell you, he lived in New Orleans East. His house flooded. He was by himself. He had the great sense to, of all things, bring a hammer and a few other things, but forgot his eyeglasses. Got up in his attic, broke through after 2 days out of the attic, then walked 12 miles to the Superdome. He was 80 at the time, 80 years old. He died last week at 92. Among other things, he was the first sports information director for the SWAC. He told me stories about back in the day in 1953, he was a graduate student at LSU, and the only other black person he had to talk to was a custodian. His story was just remarkable. He was a dear friend, but this segment was from when he got back to Baton Rouge after Katrina, and he talked about trying to get coverage for Southern University in The Advocate.
Now, at that time, you were, you told me you were a professor at Southern.
Yes.
And you tell the story about how you got sports about Southern University into The Advocate.
Well, in the 50s, Southern didn't get very much play. Southern University and its athletics did not get very much play in either The Advocate or the afternoon paper, the State Times. So the head football coach at Southern was Arnett Mumford, and the athletics director was Ulysses S. Jones. And one day we were just talking after practice, and we went in Coach Mumford's office, and Coach Mumford was saying, I'd be able to do a great deal more recruiting, effective recruiting, if we got a little more space and publicity in the newspapers. And so Dean Jones said, well, that's the way it is, Coach. And so I said to both of them, I said, I have an idea. I said, I don't know whether it'll work or not. So they both said, well, let's try it. So I said, I'm going to invite the sports editor, who was Bud Montet, to the Southern University campus, and we'll have some members of the athletic committee and a little wine and cheese set, and we'll talk to him. So after a great deal of sort of give and take between myself and Bud Montet.
No, wait, I got to stop you the first time now. When he first approached Bud Montet, who, I got to know Bud a long time. He died a few years ago, but he was retired from The Advocate, but still worked there when I was at The Advocate. He told Mr. Stockard that he had never been to Southern's campus.
He said he didn't know where it was, and he didn't say it in jest or anything of that sort, and I believed him. So he seemed not to be willing to come out and talk to us, that is the athletic committee, and he sort of put me off, and three times, and I think he saw that I wasn't going to forget it and give up on him, and he finally said, I don't know where the campus is. So I felt that he was sort of thinking about coming and speaking with us and to us, and I said, well, Mr. Montette, I'll pick you up, from the advocate office. It was on 3rd Street then.
Yep.
And I'll take you to the campus, and I'll bring you back. So he didn't have an excuse at that point. And finally, he agreed to come. And he came, and we talked about athletics and the newspapers. And finally, I asked him, I said, Mr. Montette, how can Southern University and its athletic program get more space in the advocate? And he looked at me very sincerely and seriously, and he said, I didn't think that many blacks read the paper. And I don't think he was joking at all. And I said, well, we've done a little checking, and you'd be surprised at the number of papers that are thrown in the black communities here in Baton Rouge. And he kind of swallowed a couple of times and changed his position in his chair. And he said, well, I tell you what. He said, I'm going to make a change. He said, but it won't be overnight now. Don't expect it to be overnight. And we began to see gradually a little more in the paper about Southern University's athletics, and a little more, and a little more. And it wasn't until he was no longer the sports editor, that real change came about. And the sports editor at the time, when a person was designated to Southern University.
Yeah, a guy named Mike McKenzie assigned Joe Planis.
All right, Joe Planis. Yeah. And from that point on, Southern University received a great deal of publicity in terms of its athletic events. And I can tell you now that Southern University, as a black historical college university, it receives more publicity from the Advocate than any other historical university, school in this country. And I'm talking about cities such as Atlanta, Houston, of course there's not one in Dallas, but Washington, D.C.
Right.
And that's a fact of life.
Wow. Russell Stockert, he was 92. He was a dear friend. We used to go grab lunch together once in a while and talk about more politics than anything else, sports, life, and he has a wonderful family. My deepest thoughts go out to not only the family, but his wife, Mary. There's a picture we actually took at Golden Corral a couple of years ago after we were waiting online. I said, hey, let's get a selfie. I'll tell you one quick story. You guys can take the picture down. That's okay. At his 90th birthday party, most of his immediate family was in, his children, some dear friends, and all the grandkids except for maybe one. Education was the single most important thing to Mr. Stockert for both him and his family, and he recognized that as the single most important thing to get ahead for anyone, but especially for African Americans. And there were so many multiple degrees in the room. I mean, I was embarrassed because I never told him how bad of a student I was. Not then or ever did I tell him that. But there was one of the grandkids who they were giving a lot of grief to that day because he only had one degree. He didn't have a postgraduate degree, and they were giving him a hard time. Anyway, R.L. Stockert, I'll tell you one quick thing. We have more from that interview from when he was on the old Sports Monday, and that includes him telling the story about the famous behind-the-scenes, not publicized until there was a documentary about it, which wasn't real, between St. Augustine and Jesuit playing high school basketball in the 60s. And I'll put all three clips from those segments up on YouTube on the Sports 225 channel. Anyway, when we get back, Matt Moscona is here, and we'll resume the inane thing that is Sports 225. We'll be right back.
Don't let the bed bugs bite you. We'll put them to sleep.
Bed bugs can be transported from most anywhere. Hotels, department stores, even a friend's house.
We've got the bead on bed bugs. Call the bug man today.
Call 923-BUGS.
That's great. I love that. We're back on Sports 225, where March Madness is taking on its whole different turn. I really appreciate you going to the party store. I hope we can use some of this stuff again. You know?
Yeah. Look, and some of it is generic enough. It just says, let's party. So maybe you could save it for your 300th show.
Well, from when you were on the show the last time.
Last week?
Yes. We both agreed that the next time that we would see each other, unfortunately, Johnny Jones would not be the basketball coach at LSU.
Yeah.
You and I both did not attend but watched digitally the news conference that Joe Oliva had announcing such things. And it struck me as particularly odd that at the very end of it, and not even in the news release, but when he was asked, hey, who's going to run the program right now till you hire a coach? Oh, the whole staff's been fired, and Eddie Nunez is in charge. And Eddie's a great guy, and I would trust him implicitly with the basketball program. But it didn't dawn on them to say, oh, and by the way, we fired all the assistants?
That was such a mess. Lee, you've been around LSU for a long time, longer than me, obviously. What is wrong with them? Like that's not even in jest.
No, they're failing public relations 101 for starters.
And what's amazing is that if you go back to last November with the Les Miles fiasco, to November of 2015, the number of public relations disasters, from the Miles, isn't he fired, through that offseason, into the Florida debacle this past year, Les ultimately being fired, botching the hiring, and ultimately, the release during the Texas A&M game, the leak of the Tom Herman story, then into hiring Orgeron, now this basketball season, and that press conference last week, Lee, was a total contradiction. It was 6 very awkward minutes, and I don't understand how someone didn't say to Joe Oliva, hey, let's sit down and practice what questions you're going to get if you're going to go answer questions.
But why not just have a news release?
And if not, exactly.
Yeah.
What's 6 minutes? His opening statement was sufficient. Put it in a press release, bury it in the weekend, and be done with it. And don't have another comment until you're introducing a new coach. But instead, you have Joe Oliva saying things like, what I learned is the term fit is a total joke. Just 2 months after he stood at that very podium introducing Ed Orgeron as the perfect fit, his word, for the football program. It's incredible that nobody has stopped and said, we're failing here in public relations. Like, the fact that LSU was made to be the bad guy in the Florida thing, when LSU offered everything to Florida, that we play anywhere, we'll bring security, we'll do anything. And somehow LSU was made to be the bad. That's public relations failure. LSU, get somebody in there in that role that Herb Vincent once so wonderfully occupied that they have not replaced since Herb left. And get someone to be your PR sharp mind. This is terrible. That was so awful with Joe Oliva's 6-minute press conference the other day.
Well, the first minute was really good.
The first minute and 14 seconds, his opening statement, was fine. Put that in print and be done with it. Why does it take you and me, idiots with party hats on a TV set, to realize this for these people? Why, Lee?
I was fine with you until you called me an idiot.
What? Okay, I'm the idiot. I'm the one who brought the party hats. I'm the idiot.
I don't disagree with you. I got to tell you a quick story though, because I know how. Yeah. So he's not wrong, and he and I have talked about this, and I agree with him. And we can only hope that LSU makes a really good basketball hire. But in this awkward transition, with the remaining minute that I have left in this show, I got to tell you a quick story. With the passing last week of Ben Jobe, I was the Southern University basketball beat writer when Bob Hopkins left for Grambling, and they hired a guy named Ben Jobe. And we were at Jackson State. Southern played at Jackson State. So this is like the 1986-87 season, maybe the 87-88 season. And they had a kid named Lester Fonville, a 7-footer for Jackson State, who couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time, but he could block shots. He ended up getting drafted by the Portland Trailblazers, never made it in the NBA. But I remember interviewing him after the game. First, I went to the Jackson State side, said, Lester, good night tonight on defense. I think he had 12 blocks. And he looked down at me and he goes, I'm a block shotter, and I'm going to continue to be a block shotter. And I looked up at him and I said, yes, you are. At which point I went over to the Southern locker room, and Ben came out, and it was me and the guy from Channel 9, cameraman. And I said, thoughts about the game, and he goes, electronic media first. And I looked at him and I said, don't say that. You'll make an enemy out of me. And we were already on the track to not being good buddies at that point. It was contentious. And he looked at me and said, we are enemies by birth. Well, that was the beginning of the end, and things got really, really ugly, and it would take way longer than this show has to tell you the whole story. The oddest thing was, well, then the next year, so it had to be the 86-87 season, because the 87-88 season, he wouldn't let his team talk to me. And they were a really good team. They took Kentucky to the limit in the NCAA tournament in the first round. That was a team with Avery Johnson, Kevin Florent, guys who were like legit. Mm-hmm. And I never spoke to him or the entire team. But then one day, about 10 years later at a Final Four, he saw me, hugs, kisses, and we were best of buds ever since. And we got to go to break, and I'll leave you with this picture that we took when Avery Johnson was in town a few years ago, and they renamed the floor the Avery Johnson floor at Southern University. And Ben and I took this picture, and you can see if you remember the video from when I had R.L. Stockard on, and the length of my hair, and then that. So I've gone the full gamut. All right, take that picture off. Anyway, Ben and I, we ended up cool, and who knows? You stick around long enough and people get old, and I used to enjoy seeing him, and his impact on basketball is well documented as well. All right, we got to go to break. We'll never have enough time to finish the show. He's Matt Moscona. I'm Lee Feinswag. It's Sports 225.
See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Do not adjust your television set. Yes, this is real. We only got about a minute left because we went so long with the other stuff. This is the 200th Sports 225. We did over 600 of Sports Monday. Matt Moscona, thank you very, very much. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Thanks to the guys at JCW for directing the show. Thank you for watching. Go to sports225.com for the show listings and to see the remainder of the clips that I have with my interview from R.L. Stockard. I'm lost. Just
I gave
just go
the
to
production
break.
guys poppers. Do the poppers. Wait, here they come. Hey! Hey!
You just came from out of virtual.
At carnival time, by Baton Rouge
Get out of here, both of you.
That's the side of my story.
Your boy was half cut off.
Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish Town Mardi Gras, may it never die. Poetry was everywhere, sweet music filled the air, and just then she glanced my way next to Baton Rouge Bay.